Umfa,
Yes, ma'am.
Assuming it was the APC in office after the 2023 elections, what would you be doing differently?
One, we'll be cutting down the traveling by the president. Why we think it's critical as an opposition that we continue to say the president should not be traveling so much is the cost implications to the country. You have to do a cost-benefit analysis. How much benefit are you getting from that travel versus how much it is costing you as a nation? They call us a developing country for one, not for just the name. We are trying to grow. So for a nation trying to grow, you must demonstrate that you are really concerned about how you're spending the country's money. There's so much expenditure on government institutions. Even for example, the type of vehicles we buy for our ministers, they're too expensive. If you take an average 100 of those vehicles and you multiply the cost and the multiplier effect in just maintaining those vehicles, for a minister that travels from his house to the office, for the most part, we should not be buying all those luxurious vehicles. If you take those, if you compare the type of luxurious vehicles we have in our government officials, you know we have our priorities in the wrong place. So coming to travel, how much people that travels with the president and how much goes to the per diem, how much goes to flight tickets, how much goes to hotel tickets, all of those will be accounted into our cash losses as a nation. I'm sure you can send somebody. I mean, I take his argument that yes, if you don't show up at their job, they will give you what you want. But to all our international partners that support us and want to see the best thing for our country, they want to see the seriousness of how we are taking our country's resources. They have to see that. So for an APC-led government, the positions will be different. The policies will be different when it comes to ministries. By now, if we won the elections, you have a Ministry of Finance and Economic Development in one ministry. Yes, you have a Ministry of Youth Affairs because, yes, Sierra Leone has one of the highest. 80% of young people are under the age of 35 in Sierra Leone, even compared to their regional partners, even compared to all countries in Africa where the youngest people are below the age of 60% are below the age of 35. So which means we have a very young population and we need to focus on developing those youths. So creating a Ministry of Youth Affairs separate from the Ministry of Sport, which I believe have its own dynamic needs, I think it's in place. But having a Ministry of Environment, then EPA, Environment Protection Agency, having a Ministry of Information against the Ministry of Communication, it is just growing big governments, which leads to huge, huge expenditure.
Honorable Infa, one will say the argument at this particular moment is long overdue, and the APC, I mean, as the main opposition in Parliament, at some point in time misplaced their priorities, you know, instead of addressing issues that has to do with the public interest. Of course, our interest, the bread and butter issue, but rather the party focuses on issues that has to do with their own personal interest or whatsoever.
Well, that is the more reason why we started with these press conferences. Because if we do not have press conferences, you will not have our positions. If we don't come out and tell the public what we are doing or what we are against and our position on certain things, then what will occupy the media space is the negative news. Like you said, we've spent time on personal interests. Because of the time of the program, I will not ask you what those personal interests are because I want to talk versus having you talk. So for us, having Parliament come to the people, we want to hear, the people who hear face to face what our positions are, what projects or programs we went against versus what government wanted, what our votes were in terms of those programs and policies and agreements, and what we want to hear from the people, which is very important in governance. Because what the people have, the opinion of the people is more important. What the people want is paramount. So sometimes government will have priorities, but government should be prepared to shift government priorities to meet the needs of their people. And I think that is why it's important that you have a listening government, not a government that think, this is my policy, these are my programs, let me go by them. And I just wanted to share with the public that we just received this performance audit report on the distribution of water supply in the Western area. In the coming weeks, we'll talk about them. We'll see how government has spent the money on water. We're all struggling with water in Western area. In Calabar Town, for example, we don't have pipe-borne water. And can you imagine most areas in the eastern part of Freetown do not benefit from pipe-borne water.
By the way, I used to stay in Calbata, but nonetheless.
And we have so many water wells, right? So we're coming to the public on those issues. So not that governments do not get support, not that government do not have money sometimes given to them, but the misappropriations of those funds, which means you're not having your priorities right, you're not doing things that will benefit the populace, you do things that you egotistically believe is the right thing. So sometimes you have to listen. And when you listen, you will be a people-centered government.